Yeah.
you, because
Yeah.
if you don't, it stays in you, and if it stays in
Yeah.
you, it builds,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so again, it's not, you're not punishing her. You're not
Totally.
trying to lord it over. You're not bringing it up later in a fight
No.
as
Right.
ammunition for like, well, you don't do
Right.
this X, Y, and Z, and so you're not dependable. And that's,
Right.
like these, right? So you're not using it as control. You're getting. I need you to know this. Here's how it made me feel. And reconciliation. And why don't we bring that up? Why don't we do that?
Right.
Because it risks conflict.
Yeah.
It risks
It's
them
not that big of a deal.
right. It risks them
Yeah.
responding negative. Well, do you see what I'm dealing with here? Like,
Right.
again, you walked in the room and had an awareness of like, oh, I get it. Why she might
Yeah.
have not been near her phone. And
Totally.
I know your family, like, you guys are not always on your phone. Like, there is an ethos. It was like certainly in some ways a part of the culture to be
Sure.
disconnected from technology, but you needed to communicate something to get it out
Yeah.
of you
Yep.
and acknowledge what was there and what occurred so that you could move
Yeah.
on from it, and so resentment didn't build.
Totally.
And
Yeah.
again,
That's right.
so it can be put to bed there and never brought up again. Never matter in having a healthy, productive, amicable, beneficial relationship for both of you. And so,
Right.
I think that's a beautiful, simple, practical example of there's a decision moment there. Do I just let it go and not deal with it? Which, again, to the nice guy feels like, yes, do that. No
Yep.
conflict.
That's safer.
Just deal with your emotions on your own. Well, what does that turn into, right? That stuff builds
Right.
in me, and then I need to get out. I need to escape, or I have resentment, and so that becomes fodder of, well, my wife doesn't do X, Y, and Z for me, so I'm going to take what I need, right? Which is the perfect description of the shame cycle. I deprive myself of a legitimate need, which gives me the entitlement to act in an illegitimate way to fill that legitimate need, which makes me act out in an illegitimate way, which makes me ashamed of what I did, which makes me deprive myself of a legitimate need, and around I go, right? And you
Yeah.
broke that at the most important point, which is, okay, I'm not going to deprive myself of the legitimate need of what feels like a relatively little thing, but that supports you in your capacity to not get to a point where you find yourself locked into getting an illegitimate need, or to making an illegitimate act to fill that legitimate need, which again,
Yeah.
in the context of addiction, craving, is so important for us to in some ways over-index on, because
Yeah.
it's critically important. So
Totally.
we're gonna land the plane here. This is self-respect, a little bit about brotherhood, a few practical tips and tools of how to do that, what this looks like. I think, Nick, I really appreciate the stories you brought up are great ways to sort of bring this to life and animate what we're talking about here.